This is Umar for BoxNation. We're back from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and we've been to Riyadh. It's like a second home countless times over the last year, Frank, and we've been very fortunate to be at some incredible occasions and events. But this one felt a little bit more special because you're talking about two unbeaten guys, an undisputed fight, two incredible amateurs, two incredible professionals, and you've been in this sport for longer than anyone, Frank. But I'm sure you were still felt privileged to be at that fight between Beterbiev and Bivol.
Oh, I did. I mean, they're two absolute world-class athletes, boxers, and it was for me. I was pretty neutral in the fight because for obvious reasons, but I thought it was a real good, a real good quality fight, as I say, between two magnificent fighters, and it's quite intriguing. I watched it back the other day, and I thought it was a little bit closer. I felt Bivol just did it. I thought, one or two rounds, but I watched it back. It was quite a close fight. It was like he got his tactics right in some way. Beterbiev, I pronounced that right. I hope for a change. He got his tactics right, and I thought he, doing those sort of like the last sort of 45 seconds of each round where he was, or not each round, but most, some of the rounds, the latter rounds, where he started, throwing some shots, and that was quite eye catching for the judges. But I looked at the stats and all that, and sometimes I don't believe. I look at stats and they don't mean nothing. But it was a, it was a cracking fight. I'd watch that again, that's for sure.
100%. We'll come on to the rematch in a second, but um, yeah, everyone in the arena, a majority of people had Bivol, including yourself. I felt like a lot of the shots that Beterbiev was throwing, and he had a very good output. Bivol was kind of catching them on the gloves or riding them. They weren't landing flush. But if you were scoring for aggression, I guess that's why the
Well, you
judges
can't,
scored so good.
you don't score for aggression. That's where everybody gets this wrong, or not everybody, where a lot of people get it wrong. You score by hitting on the correct part of the glove, and the correct part of the glove is the knuckle part of the glove. It's not that slaps or touching or anything. It's hitting with that part of the glove, irrespective of what the power is, because it's a hit. Not everybody's a big puncher. Some guys are boxers, some guys are big punchers, and it's not about that. And somebody, I sort of had this debate the other day with somebody, and they were saying to me, well, the harder punches were coming from him. I said, well, that's not what it's about. It's the art of hitting and not being hit. So if you've got somebody who's a really good boxer and they throw four really good quality jabs and somebody throws a big shot and connects, he's beat you 3-1 because he's hit you three times with the correct part of the glove.
Mm. Well, going off that, I felt like the
Well, if
cleaner.
you're going on somebody who's walking forward and being aggressive, then you can say that Raven in her fight was the more aggressive fighter, although, she got beat and she did get beat. She got beat because the punches that were connecting more were coming from Sky.
Well, going off that, I felt like the cleaner, the better work was from Bivol in that fight. To be honest, Frank.
Yeah, but there weren't a lot in the amount of punches that were being thrown, and the early part of the fight was I had it going into the sixth round 3-2, and
To
there was
Bivol,
some
yeah,
to Bivol, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Beterbiev came on strong late though, especially the championship rounds.
Well, he did. He did. He came on well, and his work is it's very eye catching what he does, because obviously you're waiting for that big shot to land, because that's the type of fighter he is. It's the first time he's gone the distance, so it was. It'd be interesting to see that the rematch gets made, which I believe it will do. If it gets made, how they go about it next time, because there were times in the fight, if you watch it, which I watched it again, where Bivol actually stands and trades with him in the early part of the fight, and catches him with some really good shots.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was built as the puncher v the boxer, but when you actually look at it, Beterbiev is a phenomenal boxer and has great IQ himself. And Bivol showed that, as you said, he's happy to stand in the pocket and have a fight with Beterbiev at times.
Yeah, yeah. But Beterbiev is just, you can see at the end he was the physically stronger guy at the turn. But I thought Bivol done extremely well, and I thought he'd done enough to just to come away with it. But look, it was a close fight. It was a close fight. I think one of the judges got it wrong, but it was a close fight.
Yeah, you're talking about that 116, 112 card. That seemed very wide, Frank.
Yeah, Yeah, it does. But as I say, that was his interpret. Somebody said I was reading some of the stuff, or somebody sent me some of the stuff saying, "Oh, the judge, they got the judges, all that soppy talk." It's a Polish judge. The Poles are not exactly best friends with the Russians at the moment. That's for sure. Nor have they been. So come on.
Eddie says he should be sacked from the sport. Was that a bit strong?
Yeah, well, he was. I mean, I was sitting next to him at the fight, and he was quite passionate about his man winning, and I thought, I sat there, I agreed that he won the fight. When he got in after duty, I said he's done enough. I shook his hand actually and said, "Well done." Uh, but anyway, it wasn't to be.
His Excellency declared as well he thought Bivol won by 2 rounds and said
Yeah.
that
Well, I was
he
sitting next to him. We were talking during the fight, so we're all pretty much on the same,
page.
on the same page from that.
And it was good to hear that he says, if Artur Beterbiev accepts he wants to get that rematch on. I mean, that is a big, big fight, that second fight between them two.
Yeah, it'd be a great fight, wouldn't it? I mean, the atmosphere was great in there, wasn't it? It was a really good atmosphere in there for all the fights, and certainly for that one, it was.
This might be a hard question to answer, Frank, because normally it's quite obvious because Beterbiev's the winner and the winner going into the rematch, majority of the time you'd say is favoured again. But who's actually got the stronger chance in the rematch, in your opinion? It's a tough question to answer.
I don't know. I mean, looking to how the fight ended, you think maybe Beterbiev now, he wasn't as active as Bivol, was he? He's been out a little bit longer, I think, than Bivol, and so he's got the rust out of his system. I don't think it's one of those fights where it was a grueling fight like Tyson and Usyk was quite a grueling fight for both of them. We're getting caught with hard shots. I think it's one of those fights where, I mean, although they're at an age now, and certainly Beterbiev is at an age now, as he's 39 years of age. Um, it'd be a tough fight. I think Bivol's very smart. He's a very, very smart boxer, and he lifts and raises his game.
Yeah.
And maybe he may go about it a different way. But then again, Beterbiev may, from the first bell, just go and try and put it on him. It's going to be quite intriguing, So it'd be an interesting fight.
Absolutely. One thing I think we've got to note as well is, especially with the 116, 112 card, massive moment for Dmitry Bivol. He's worked his whole life for his opponent. You couldn't really fault a fighter for his emotions getting the better of him, but not once
Yeah,
did he complain or moan, Bivol, after the fight.
never got on with it. Do you know what? You can complain and moan, and I'll get it. And I bet if I was a fighter, I'd probably be the biggest complainer and moaner out of all of them. But the facts of the matter is, you can't change it. The result's the result, and that's the end of it. No one's going to change the result. That's what it is.
I
The
remember
only way you
actually,
change it is by having a rematch.
I remember in LA for the first Fury Wilder fight, Tyson was the same.
Yeah, I mean that ended around. I know. I remember Shane, Tyson's brother. Well, all the family were going bananas, and I got to be honest, they were entitled to, because I thought Tyson won that fight, and they was going. I said, listen, I feel the same as you, but forget about it. Nothing. You're not going to change this. All you can do is get the rematch, and we got the rematch at the end. And at the rematch, Tyson done a job, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Having said that, his manager, Vadim Kornilov, who's a brilliant operator in the sport, is taking a different stance. I spoke to Dimitri and Vadim on the Sunday in Riyadh the day after, and he said to me that look, nothing's going to get overturned. We're not looking for that, but
There you go.
the judge had it 116, 112. We want to file an official process, and we want to just understand how we got that scorecard. Do you understand why they're doing that?
Yeah, I do. And they're entitled to. If you don't agree with something, that's the procedure. That's the way you go about it. And I mean, I did that with the same thing with the controversial low blow between Daniel and Usyk, and we filed a complaint because
Yeah.
that's the procedure. That's what you do.
Frank, do you think, look, yourselves, in terms of, I'm talking about promoters, trainers, managers, fighters, even sometimes the assistant trainers, all get interviewed straight after fights, the day after fights, etc. Do you believe, and it's the same with referees in the Premier League, La Liga, whatever, do you believe judges and officials should get interviewed when something like that happens?
No, I don't think you can do that at ringside, because if it's controversial, you don't want, especially you get some passionate fans, that could lead to problems. I've no problem with the judges being interviewed, afterwards or backstage if they want to do the interview. I mean, the referees don't get interviewed, do they? Or
No.
linesmen, and I think if you start doing that, then you start, what we're in the hands of, and I don't mean for this particular fight, but when you get real, where it's, what you feel are wrong decisions, we're in a situation where that should be the responsibility of the governing bodies to deal with it. And as I say, if somebody gets it wrong, and we have seen some real terrible, terrible decisions over the years, is that there's no repercussions for the judge. He can go on the following week and be a judge of a fight, and that's to me is not acceptable. I mean, I've said this before that if that happens, then the judges should be like Nick Ball's fight. In that particular judge in that fight, they shouldn't be allowed. It shouldn't be allowed. They should be downgraded and have to work their way back and prove that they're capable.
Yeah. Well, someone who didn't need the judges was your new heavyweight signing, Fabio Wardley.
Yeah.
Before we come on to the destructive performance, I bumped into Frazer Clarke at the airport on the way back,
So
actually,
did I. He looked well,
and
didn't
he's okay, thankfully.
he? Yeah. He told me HE got the best surgeon in Saudi. He actually was in bed and got out of bed and came and operated on him from inside his mouth and set it. And he looked quite well, and he was in quite good spirits considering how what a brutal knockout and stoppage it was. He's a good guy. He's a good guy, Frazer. I've got a lot of time for him. It was the 13th round of the last fight. That's exactly how it was, and that's how it ended. And and I said to him, and he texted me today, and I just said to him, just chill, take some time out with your family. You haven't got to rush into anything or let anybody make decisions for you. It's your life, and you make your decisions.
Yeah, he said exactly the same. The treatment was first class, and he even said that His Excellency was willing to leave the show and come and see him in hospital.
Yeah, yeah, he was quite concerned about it. Yeah, which is nice. I mean, it shows you the passion that's there and the care that's there over there. I mean, there's a real sort of, I mean, hospital. I don't know if you've been to the hospitals out there. The one I see they're unbelievable.
I'm
Unbelievable.
not planning on visiting one anytime soon, but
Keep on in you, Will. I'm telling you, any more sorts out of you.
yeah, I said it's great to see that he's okay because on the night that jaw didn't look great at all. It was in
No,
a
it's like a
weird place.
dent. It broke it across here, broke his jaw. It's like a big dent across here. But it did look at the airport. He's with his wife, and he looked so he was all right. He's a good bloke.
Absolutely. Well, Fabio Wardley, I know you predicted a knockout and you backed your man, but that fashion, I'm sure you still didn't expect over and
No, I didn't. I did not. I thought it'd take a few rounds. I thought it'd get to him and it'd take a few rounds. I thought he showed that in the previous fight, but that was spectacular, wasn't it? And if you want you watch it back, I mean, the amount of shots he threw, he threw about 6 body shots. I mean, and they weren't. I mean, they were quite powerful and hurtful punches. He got his combinations together there. I mean, he was really, really on it, and that was good. That was world class. A world class finish. It was brutal, but it was a world class finish, no doubt about that. Punch perfect.
certainly was. And this is a man who's had 4 white collar fights, nothing in the
I
amateurs.
know. When you look at it, it's just unbelievable, isn't it? It is unbelievable.
That was, I mean, by far his best performance that we've seen. And he was also very good against David Adley at the opening of Riyadh season, the first card they had there. What is it that you saw in Fabio that you wanted to secure a signature?
There's a couple of things. One, meeting him. He's a nice guy. He's a nice guy. He's very articulate. I think he's a good ambassador for boxing. He speaks very well and presents himself very well. And more importantly, if you're going to be a fighter, he can fight. And he can fight. He's strong and he's powerful. And with the more experience he's getting, he's becoming a better fighter.
Well, you were on TalkSport earlier this morning, and you said that the Jared Anderson fight for Fabio is one that you want next.
Well, it's mentioned, and I said I would have no problem with that fight, and I certainly wouldn't have no problem with that fight.
Okay. Anyone else?
I think Gerald Anderson might have a problem with that fight.
Anyone else on Fabio's radar, on your
Well,
radar?
there's a couple of things there that we can look at. I don't want to sort of go into that yet because, we're blessed with talent here at Queensberry, heavyweight talent, and there's some good matches to be made, and that we'll make them. There's some good fights to be made down the road, and as I said, in previous interviews, you got Tyson's big fight, which is less than 10 weeks away now. Unification, 3 belts. You've got Daniel will be fighting in February. And once they all get their fights out of the way, then we're going to get into a situation where some of these governing bodies are going to be looking at mandatories and there'll be voluntaries and so forth. So it's going to be exciting times in the heavyweight division because everybody is vying to be there and get there. And we're going to make a few fights that will, determine who's going to be in those positions by the time the mandatories become due.
I think the good thing for yourself and Fabio as well, obviously he can clearly punch. He's got devastating knockout power. He's got good speed. He's got all the offensive attributes that you want to see. But it's not like you have to see if he can do the 12 rounds or his fitness. We've shown it.
Done that,
Shown his
yeah,
heart and desire in the first fight
yeah.
with Frazer Clarke. So all those boxes are ticked for him to move at world level, Frank, next.
Yeah, he's done it, and as you say, he didn't come from a no amateur background as such. He's gone in there and shown that he's got a good engine as well. So yeah, it's good timing, good times for him. I mean, he's sort of come right to the fore. I think Ring Magazine put him in their top 10 this morning.
Correct. Number 9. Yeah.
Yeah.
This man will become, you believe, heavyweight world champion one day. Has got the capability to do so.
Listen, if he hits anybody on the chin, they're going to have a problem, aren't they? There's no doubt about that. And it's going to be an exciting fight. So there's no doubt about it. And he wants it, and everything he's done up to yet, what he set out to do, he's done. I mean, you look at where we are and the heavyweights that we got on our roster. Old guys and young guys, and in between. There's some brilliant fights to be made there. Some absolutely stunning fights, and we focused on that heavyweight division. And I like to believe with because of Riyadh season as well, and the fact that we've been working on the heavyweight division for a couple of years now, it's all turning into something special. All these guys are out there fighting each other. We've had some brilliant heavyweight fights in the last 12 months. I mean, amazing fights.
With the younger side of your heavyweight stable, when I look at it, it's got Daniel Dubois. We have to keep reminding ourselves he's only 27. Fabio Wardley's there, of course, Moses Atalma. Those three guys in specific, Frank, do you think, for the next 5 to 10 years, these three guys can be the dominant forces in the division?
Yeah, yeah, they can. There's no doubt about that. I mean, there's no doubt about the guy eventually. The older generation, like everything, they pass the baton over, and that's why these fellas will be working there to be in position to take advantage of that. And that's what what our job is to guide them. And we set out with a few of these young fellas as young men and maneuvered them and got them into positions like, for example, Daniel, where he is at this moment in time, and that's going to happen with some of the others. There's no doubt about that. No doubt about that.
And how great is it, those three heavyweights that are named, they're all British as well.
That is the great thing about them. If you take Usyk out, we're the bosses. There's no doubt about that.
He
You
just
take
keeps
him
beating
out.
all the Brits, though, at the moment,
Well,
Usyk.
listen, he's done what he's had to do. I mean, let's see what happens on the 21st. I really do believe Tyson will come through. I do believe he'll come through. I mean, it was a very tight fight last time round, irrespective of who fought, who won. It was whatever way you want to look at it. The judges had it as a split decision, and it was a close fight. And two of the judges only had a round in it.
I'm sure, obviously, you knew about this, Frank, many months ago. But Andy Lee did some interviews last week in Riyadh, and he told me publicly that, Tyson didn't really spar properly because he was worried about that cut opening up.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you remember, that was the cut was in Was it February? I can't remember what date it was in.
It was only a couple of weeks before the fight, wasn't it?
No,
So,
no,
was it?
no. It was a couple of months, but it was a
Was it a couple
bad
of
cut.
months? Yeah.
Yeah, and the fight was then fixed for May. If you remember, it got postponed, and it was a bad cut the week before the fight in sparring, and that was it. So he went back into sparring, and of course it affects the sparring because the first thing you worry about is, it does open up in sparring. So there was a lot of No, not complaining about it. I mean, Andy's brought it up. We've never brought it up, and certainly Tyson's never brought it up. He's never moaned about it one bit. But obviously, he was worried about it opening up again because it was fresh. Normally, you'd take a good 6 months out with a cut like that, and he didn't do that. And the amazing thing is, it held up in the fight.
Yeah. Well, no, when I say a couple of weeks, I mean before the first scheduled fight. That's what I mean. A couple
Yeah,
of weeks before the
yeah,
first.
that's correct. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that happened, and that was it. But look, it's that's in the past, and they had their fight, and it was a great fight, and I think the one on the 21st is going to be the same.
To be honest, I do get that though, why he was very cautious because there was a $10 million forfeit, wasn't there, with HG?
Correct.
You wouldn't want to pay
Correct.
that up.
Well, you wouldn't, but Tyson wanted the fight.
Yeah.
He wanted the fight, and that was it. All this nonsense about ducking out of fights. I mean, you can't do no more than sign away 10 mil if you don't show up. That tells you, what it's all about.
Back to a Saturday night's fantastic card. Jai Opetaia v Jack Massey. Is that what you expected? A stoppage win for Jai?
Yeah, Jack, went out. You knew Jack would go out on his shield, and we done. And I think Joe Gallagher did the right thing in stopping the fight when he did throw the towel in.
How do you see a fight between either Beterbiev or Bivol, whoever wins the rematch against Jai at cruiserweight?
Be very interesting, wouldn't it? It'd be a bloody good fight, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It would be a great fight. There's no doubt about that. I mean, look, first of all, he'd have the advantage because he's quite a big guy, and he's tight at the weight where the others are coming up. And you look at their age, the fact they're still making that weight at light heavyweight at their age. So it's not like when most guys go up. Like if you look at, for example, Usyk, when Usyk went up, he was in his, he did the same thing. He was, when he went up, he was he in his 30s, and he was struggling a bit. And a lot of people thought he may struggle at heavyweight, but he's settled down. He's one. Well, we know he's settled down. He's got 3 belts.
Yeah, he's done all right. Jai at
Boy,
heavyweight.
done good.
Yeah. What about Jai at heavyweight? Do you think that's a stretch too far or not?
Well, I mean, you could look over the years at guys who've done it. David Haye did it. Holyfield did it. It's loads of them that have done it. Usyk was just mentioned. I don't know. He's not a big guy. He's not a big. He's not like a big man, big physical presence. Not like he's a big, tall guy. But then again, nor was Mike Tyson. I mean, he was a natural heavyweight. Holyfield wasn't a very, very big guy. I mean, it's not all about how tall you are. It's about what you. I mean, obviously, you carry the extra weight, and it's how much you do go up in weight. What would he fight at? 15 stone. I don't know.
Your old friend Chris Eubank Jr. put Szeremeta down 4 times, but you said to me on the night that you weren't overly impressed with Chris.
No, he done what he done in the first round. The opponent was he was always going to win the fight, wasn't he? It was not one a fight that was for me. It was going to be a challenging fight for him. I thought it was on the card. It was like the least competitive fight, and as you say, he went down 4 times. But I don't know. Sometimes he looks a bit laboured to me.
Okay. Straight after, we saw him face off with Conor Benn in the ring, and didn't need you or Eddie in the middle there. Just get Neymar in with his 250 million Instagram followers.
Yeah, he got in the middle of it, old Neymar, and but he's got to be licensed first of all. Everybody's got a temper where they are. He gets his license.
Is that getting resolved soon, to your knowledge, Frank? Because you mentioned something like that.
I think in the next couple of weeks, one way or another, one way or another, it'll be determined.
Okay.
Whether he's going to be fighting or not, whether he's going to have a ban or not, and whether the ban's going to be retrospective or not. So that will all pan out, and then you look at the fight and you're looking, the pluses and the minuses, and the pluses are, I suppose, that it's a very, very high profile contest fight. How is Conor going to deal with going up to 2 weights? Because Eubank says it won't be made less than £160, which will favour him.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank God that situation with Connor you believe is going to be resolved in a couple of weeks because it feels like it's been going on for a decade. A nightmare, really.
It's gone up for a fifth of a decade.
Yeah, 2 years actually. You're correct. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Um, okay, who else was below that on the card? Oh, was it Ben Whittaker, I think, and
Yeah.
Liam Cameron before that. Um, oh, don't know where to start on this one. I know where to start actually. You've signed Liam Cameron, massive promotional deal for him, and I'm sure you're just pushing for that rematch straight away.
Well, I'd love to see the rematch. I mean, I've got to think, Ben needs to do that rematch because he's been getting a lot of stick over what happened. And everyone's got their opinions and whatever. He went out in a wheelchair and then apparently had a neck injury as well. And I've got to be and I've already said it, be blunt about it. I think that had he not fallen out the ring, he would have been beaten because he was getting to him, Liam. He was dealing with him. I thought he was actually in front on the cards, but it is what it is. But I really do feel that he was hurting him and he was gassing a bit, no doubt about that.
Because of the public pressure since the fight, you believe, like for Ben Whittaker, in terms of his credibility, there's no other route but the immediate rematch.
From what people are saying, what I've seen, and even today on Talk Sport, I mean they were, I mean they weren't really very supportive of him, that's for sure. So yeah, absolutely, he wants to get his credibility. He's going to have to go back in there with it.
What is the injury to your knowledge? Do you know?
I'm not sure. Well, he said his foot was strapped up, and he said he had a neck injury.
Okay. Did you hear about his incident at the airport as well in Riyadh?
I was just smashing somebody's phone.
Um, yes, correct. Something along those lines. The Sun reported it. He's apologized and whatnot since to the guy.
So, who knows? I mean, he's I shouldn't think he's a happy camper, so he's done what he's done, and he's got to pay for that punching in that plasterboard or that cardboard wall.
Yes, I did see that as well, actually. With Liam Cameron, what a story this is because he was out the sport, out the game for I think 4 years because of drug use, recreational drug use, nothing to
Yeah.
do with performance enhancing drugs. It looked like it was all over for him, and now he's gone and signed with Queensberry on a big stage ahead of a big rematch. What a story this is, Frank.
It is, and he's good on him, to be overcome that. I mean, the drug thing. I'm not talking about. What do we say? It's not PEDs. People get involved and they can get addicted to them, and it absolutely ruins their lives. And he's shown a lot of character in it and getting that behind him and moving forward. And he's obviously now got some direction, and we're quite happy to be moving him forward and supporting him. And hopefully, we get that rematch to see who the best man is.
Lee Eaton was not a very happy person on Saturday night at
Well,
all.
he's a good. He manages him, and he's passionate about it. And I didn't realise on the night there was a little thing. I went to look at the scorecards just to see what it was, and some fella was mouthing off behind me, like as if we do something. The scorecards, just trying to look and see what the thing was. And it turned out he's Shalom's right hand man. I don't know what his name is. And I told him, please really give it to him. And I said, slow down. We have all this at ringside. You're trying to keep everything calm. But he was a saucy bastard. And I didn't know he was at the time, but I know now. And I look forward to bumping into him again.
Okay. Uh, Sky Nicholson, you mentioned the fight with Raven Chapman. Sky has got that very awkward style and she shuts out her opponents and she did that on Saturday night very well.
Yeah, she does it well. She does what she does. I mean, it's at times a lot of people may not like what they see, but she is a counterpuncher. It's like talking earlier on, people, some fighters are like that, can box. They got good boxing brains, and her punches what she works around was scoring punches. And Raven needed to change her tactics during that fight. She didn't do that. She sort of was doing the same thing more or less every round. And I've got, she's with us, and we'll make sure she gets another opportunity. I can assure you of that. But it's a learning fight as well for her. I think that's her 10th or 11th fight. And obviously, Sky's got a wealth of experience as an amateur, and she was 17 or 18 fights as a pro. So, she'll learn from it. She'll learn from. Well, she better learn from it, or she'd be in trouble with me. But she'd do. She'd be right. And as I say, she's quite. When you look at some of her fights, she's been involved in some really exciting fights. That fight was the art of hitting and not being hit. That's what it was, and it was. At times it was. It was. She done a great job, but it wasn't. I can't say it's massively entertaining. But she did what she had to do, and I'll take my hat off to her.
Finally, Matchroom have got that win over you.
Yeah, I'm going to retire now.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
sure you know
got a win. It was it was a good cut, and the young Saudi fighter did well.
Yeah,
I know he's based in the UK. He'd done extremely well, and what about the crowd getting behind him?
yeah, they
Can you
really
imagine
did.
if one of these guys comes through, that's where you get real passion because they cheer their own guy. I remember years ago, there was a great fight at the Albert Hall. It wasn't on TV, but it was a great heavyweight fight. And it was Thad Spencer and I think it was Leotis Martin. It was a cracking fight. I mean, loved it. But I'll tell you what, there wasn't a lot of noise because everybody was a neutral watching it.
Mm.
And what's happened now, I think in Saudi, and it happened, certainly you was there, and I was talking to Spencer about it at the airport. He said how the atmosphere is getting bigger and better, and I think that's because the supporters are now getting into a boxing in a big way because it's regular now. It's not one show, then another one comes along 6 months later. It's regular boxing. They're boxing fans, and they get behind the sport.
What I will say, and I'll probably get stick for this, but you've got to be there to experience it. And during Beterbiev-Bivol,
Oh, what was that? Great, wasn't it?
the atmosphere was brilliant. And
Yeah.
you look during the undercard, yeah, it is quiet. But then when we go to the O2 at Wembley Stadium, it doesn't really get full and noisy till the main event. So that happens everywhere.
Or a semi-final, but yeah, but that was there. But and also for Fabio's fight and Frazer, although it's very short, all the oohs and the ahs as those shots. Do you? I mean, I watched that back on the TV. He actually got that on the TV. All of that was quite good, and I'll say quite good as far as exciting. That was it, and look at the entertainment they had on the night with the music, brilliant.
You're a big Buster Rhymes fan, Frank?
Oh, me and Buster, we're like that.
Frank, just a couple of things I want to discuss as well. Right, just from your end, I want you to respond to this because Ben Shalom gave an interview to Boxing King Media before the fight night, and he said that he had a right to be in the middle of the face-offs with his fighters, and that he felt like during the week with you and Eddie that you guys were blocking him from certain things, etc. So, can you give me your stance on that?
Look, first of all, the face-offs are not about promoters putting their ugly mugs in front of cameras. The reason me is there because in the past, where fighters have got too close to each other, you get a headbutt or anything, you're trying to, and I like to think maybe, certainly if it's one of my guys, I can calm them down if that's the case and push them apart because we don't want that happening. It's not about photo opportunities for a promoter. And all I did, I didn't move from where I was standing. He just pushed his, not I'm saying push, he just went him forward, which if he'd said, excuse me or whatever, I've got a problem with that. But it's the way he went about it. And so, that was what it was. And then they start pushing back on you. They think, show some respect. And, all week, all you got from him all week was, where am I sitting? Am I on the camera side of the TV? In the contracts, sending contracts through, I must be in the middle of the photographs. I don't want Eddie Hearn in a photograph with my fighter. Any interviews with my fighter, I have to be there. I want to guarantee that Eddie, as I mentioned, so what? So we got to stop people taking panoramic photographs. And what is this? This is about the effing boxers, not about who's going on TV and who's. It's just pathetic. The whole thing was pathetic. And in the end, I got a bollock ache. And that's why I turned around and told him the facts of life. And I said, don't do that again, what you did. And he didn't do it with the Frazer Clarke fight, or I think it was another one he was involved with. He didn't do it again. And had he done it, I'd have thrown him off the stage. And I don't mean thrown him off the stage, I mean throw him off the stage, because he was just so disrespectful to everybody. And everybody had enough of him. Just hard work. I mean, you think about all the promoters involved in shows like Cali, Bob Arum's team, everybody works well. They were a nightmare, an absolute nightmare to work with. I mean, I only heard about this yesterday, some of the things that I was told, because my lot don't tell me what's going on. And when I'm hearing it, I said, well, why don't you tell me? And, I was fuming over some of it. And it's pathetic. It's about the boxers. But you know what? It's called karma. And we all see what happened. Two of these fighters, one got beat, convincingly got beat, and the other one has got to go and prove what he's all about now when he recovers from his injuries, and do the rematch.
Frank, when you say it was a nightmare for your team to deal with, are you talking specifically about Ben Shalom, or do you mean the staff at Boxer?
The whole lot. I mean, he was a nightmare. He's no threat to me in any short shape or form. If I mean, we've got a very, very good roster of boxers, and we have faith in them. And most of the time, we put them in fights that we feel they will win, and invariably, they do, as they did.
Frank,
And there would have been another win, and had Lee Eaton's one of our matchmakers, and he manages Liam, and had that fight gone on, I'm convinced, I may be wrong, but in my opinion, he would have won that fight.
Okay. Frank,
I don't make matches just to get there, to be there. We make matches for our fighters, which we hope they're going to win. Excuse me.
That's right. Frank, the perception he put out of that interview was that yourselves and Eddie were making life difficult for him that week.
In
So
what way?
just blocking him from certain things.
Blocking him from what?
I'm not sure, he didn't say, but
what is he being blocked from? What, having a photograph done? Grow up, act your age. I don't know what you mean by blocking. I have no idea what that means, what he means. And let's get it right. It's not like he had Bacoli on quite a few months ago on one of the shows.
the first card, the Fury and Garner card.
Yeah, he went on the card. So I don't get it. What's he keep on about this bullshit for? Blocking. I mean, it's just that the man set that stuff up with Eubank. His man, and I'm not going to say his name, so I don't want to embarrass them. His man set that up. He went to AD, asked AD, who's at DAZN, and said, ask that question. And they set that up. That was a setup. But I told him the facts of life afterwards, in a room, him, Eubanks, and his man. And all they could do is look at the floor, all of them.
Okay.
And by the way, they'd done an interview on IFL, and Coogan told me that they didn't want to put it out. They took it down.
Who did an interview? Eubanks,
yeah. And then they was asked not to put it out.
Okay.
So they asked to put it out, but they do all this stuff, say all this stuff. You really want to be honest about it, keep saying he's blocked. I understand why Eddie's pissed.
Just picking this back up with Frank Warren. As people who use Zoom know, after 40 minutes it runs out. We haven't cut anything, so we'll pick off where we left off. Frank, I heard you say, I understand why Eddie is pissed off, annoyed. What were you going to say?
Because when I've spoken with him, he says he gets so annoyed that they get to making fights, and he keeps pulling guys out of purse bids.
Okay. So from your perspective, Frank, where you've got yourselves, Matchroom, whoever else has been involved, Top Rank, Wasserman, whatever promoter has been involved, everything's
in loads. Aegis, K2,
yeah,
World
of Boxing, whoever.
But there's been at least, I think, 12 or 13 different companies.
Everything seems absolutely fine. With Boxer and Ben Shalom, obviously Eddie's got his gripes from before regarding what you just said about the purse bid situation and fights not going through. Is there actually any problems between you and Ben Shalom or not?
Problems?
Yeah,
I
because
haven't got a
there
problem.
wasn't a prior history of back and forth with you and Ben or anything like
Well,
that.
I think no, there was a little bit of a thing where, where he says things and then he agree things. We cut on a couple of occasions, certainly with George, I know, and then then they don't happen. So, that's the thing with him. He says one thing and does something else. That's happened on a couple of occasions. But for me personally, what happened at that press conference with Eubanks, that was, as I said earlier, was all set up. I told you what happened. He got his man to ask that question from AD. AD very. I don't want to be disrespectful saying naively. He was unaware of what it is. He asked the question. The question they asked him was asked why he signed with Boxer,
Yeah.
and that set up what for all that crap that he come up with. And then when I see him afterwards, face to face, the three of them, it's a different thing. And as I said to you earlier, yeah, I think Eubanks was asked a question, and they then told Coogan they didn't want it up and not to run it.
So had this not all happened, i.e., the situation with the question at the press conference with Eubank, had he not got in front of you in your personal space the other day, everything would be amicable and fine. Is that
I've
correct?
got to be honest, I don't even think about him. I mean, he comes into my mind only when you guys speak about him. What do I? He's inconsequential to me. He's just another promoter in the business doing whatever he does. And, he pitted a couple of his fighters against our fighters. And we see what the outcome was on Saturday with that. That's that.
Okay.
I don't look at him any more than that. And I have no reason to look at him, in any other light. He's not somebody I particularly would like to be spending a lunch with or a dinner with, because I can't be, one thing for sure, I couldn't be standing everyone wanting to have their photos done every 5 minutes.
But to be fair, Frank, years ago you'd have been saying the same thing about Eddie.
Well, but I had no dealings with him. There was no dealings. Whatever I was saying was maybe him responding to what maybe something I said, or vice versa. But at the end of the day, with this guy, we've had dealings with him, and it's been quite unpleasant. It's not been a pleasant situation. It's not been they've not been respectful in any way, not at all. And that stuff at that press conference. And the annoying thing at the time is it couldn't be heard because I mentioned the speakers were well in front of us, so you can only pick up on bits of it where you're sitting, especially if someone's got you can't even see their lips, you've got their back of their head. He was sitting directly in front of me. So that was that. But as I say, when you know what happened, you played, it might have been yourself or one of the other guys played it back to me, and I went and said what I had to say to him and told him. And I certainly told him in no uncertain circumstances on, at the weigh-in, what the position was and what his position would be.
Okay. He also said during that week that in terms of the Anthony Yarde situation, who's boxing this Saturday, that he got the blessing from you guys regarding this Saturday's fight. Is that correct?
You get a blessing, Russ. There was a contractual situation, and that contractual situation was, as we said, it's always been the same from the beginning, which was we had a right to match if we choose to do so, and we didn't choose to do that.
Have you
So
seen?
that's providing what we're supposed to match happens.
Yeah. Okay. Have you seen Anthony's Yarde's video that he's put out? His interview.
I haven't seen nothing. What's he say?
He said that he didn't want to part terms with you, but in terms of the negotiating for a couple of fights that he was having for you and renewing your deal, the terms couldn't be met, and he's said that he's open to working with you in the future. Have you got anything to say to that?
As I said, I think everybody knows how I feel about Anthony. I mean, I can't tell you how disappointed I was it came to that. You've got to remember that's what he's being told by his management, because that's who we spoke to. And I had 2 fights left on the contract. I'll tell you exactly how it was. We had 2 fights left on the contract, and Tundi asked for what we call in the business a warm-up fight, another warm-up fight. And we had no problem doing that. But as far as I was concerned, that wasn't part of our contract. And then he asked for another one, because obviously we were trying to make, which I'm sure Shalom will tell you, we were trying to make the fight with Josh Buatsi. So that's where we were. And he didn't want that. He wanted yet another fight. So why would I, from a business perspective, give somebody 2 easy fights and end a contract? Why would I do that? It's illogical. And to do that. And then I got on the Monday immediately saying the contract was at an end and we got to renegotiate and all that, which I was pissed off about. I don't believe Anthony. I wish I'd had the conversation with Anthony to start with, then it would have been a different thing. But we then went along with, what was in the contract, where we were, which has led us to where we are today. I like him. I like him a lot. And as I said at the time, and from the beginning of all this, it was unfortunate. And, but, there is a massive difference as to what happened, what I'm saying happened, and what Tunde's saying happened. And
Okay.
that is where it lies. And so that is it. And I think anyone who's got half a logical brain would understand, if you've got a contract with someone, why would you give them? I can't even remember the names of the two opponents he fought. There were two jobs for him to get back in the swing of it. I weren't obliged to do that. I did that because I wanted him to be going into a fight where he was 100% mentally correct and mentally right, because I wanted him to win it, because I believed he was capable of doing that, win a title. And it turned down the Bivol fight also, and that's why Lyndon Arthur got the fight. That's the truth of what happened.
What if they had said, on the two fights that were left, what if they had said, let's have one warm-up fight, then do Buatsi?
We'd have done it. But it wasn't even about that. I mean, those fights are, for me, they should be fights outside the contract. They weren't for the contracted amount of money in the contract. But it's, what? It's all irrelevant. It's totally irrelevant now, because what's happened, and we are where we are, and we just move on. And mentally, I've moved on from this a long time ago. I was very disappointed, but you know what? I've been disappointed a lot of times in my life in boxing. It happens, and if you're going to sit there and drive yourself mad about it, then life becomes pretty boring. So I'm not doing that. I always look forward. I'm an optimist and look forward. And if our paths cross in the future, that may well happen. We will see.
Okay. Lastly, when I spoke to you in the week yesterday, you said that hopefully you should have some sort of solution as to what Daniel Dubois is going to do next, or things should move forward. Did things move forward in Riyadh last week in meetings?
I don't know yet. AJ has a period of time before he decides what he wants to do as far as his contract is with for the Riyadh season, and depending what he wants to do, then we got to make our mind up what we want to do. And I've said, and I'll make no secret of it, I have no problem with that rematch. If they want to do that rematch, we'll do it in a heartbeat.
Okay. This Friday night, you got Sam Gilley on his Queensberry debut
Yeah.
at your call against Jack-McGann. I know it was supposed to be against Louis Green. Unfortunately, he had to pull out. But Jack-McGann steps up, who obviously lost last time out, but he's got a chance at redemption. But Sam Gilley's
Well, he was on the card, wasn't he? Anyway, so
yeah.
yeah.
But Sam Gilley is someone you're backing to do big things in this sport.
Yeah, I like him, and he's a good. We were really pleased he signed with Queensberry. And Jack, he's fit. He's not like we're bringing someone in last minute. He's been training hard for fight. He was fighting himself on the card. So it's yes, it's a bit of a, for Sam. He's got a different style of opponent in front of him, but if he is what we feel he is, he'll be able to deal with that. We'll see.
Absolutely. You got a new signing as well on the card. I know your family look after him. The cruiserweight Elimasi. Excited
Yeah,
about him?
yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing him in action. I'm looking forward to that. Absolutely.
Yeah, but I've heard a lot of good things from the amateurs about him.
Me too. Me too. That's why I'm looking forward to it, and we'll see. We'll see how he adapts to the pro ranks. I'm sure he'll be okay. I'm sure about that.
So we've got that on Friday night, and then yeah, I think attention focuses onto November 2nd, a fantastic all British
Brilliant.
clash
Yeah.
between Liam Davis and Shabazz Massoud. Again, Queensberry v Matchroom. Your man definitely starts as a favourite in this race, Frank, with Liam.
Yeah, he does, and I think he should do, Liam. He's a quality fighter. I mean, he's done everything that's been asked of him. 3 titles, isn't it? He's got three titles he's won. That's in quite a short space of time. He's shown what he's all about, and he had a good win, Shabazz, last time out, didn't he? He had a cracking win, so that sets it up as well. No love lost. There's a bit of history. There is history between them, which I didn't know at the time till we got them together about when they were amateurs. So it's all, it's a good domestic rivalry, and certainly one in the Midlands that everybody talks about. So I'm really looking forward to the fight.
I hear as well that Eddie might be in attendance. He might want to come down for that, and he hasn't obviously come down to a pure Queensberry show in the UK thus far. So we might see you in at ringside.
We may do that. Who knows? I'll sort of speak. I'll sort of see out for him, and when we do the weigh-in, he can get in the picture.
You won't shove him off the stage.
He's too big for me. I'm an old geezer. What are you talking about? All these youngsters.
Oh gosh. So you got this Friday, November 2nd. Obviously, we know about December 21st, Frank in Red. What's the rest of the schedule looking like before we close the end of the year?
We're going to do a show at Wembley, which we're going to announce at Wembley Arena, which is going to be a cracking card. And then we've got a couple of smaller shows, big show at Wembley Arena, and we got another big show which we'll be announcing up in Manchester for January.
Okay, I can probably guess to who's headlining that, but I'll keep that quiet for now, considering it's Manchester, eh? Frank, I really do appreciate your time this Tuesday afternoon. Is there anything you want to add about, Saturday night or anything else before we close off?
No, just what an enjoyable night it was, and what a great night of boxing. Fabulous fights there, and some really exciting, dramatic fights. And the main event was which is what it was, 4 belts. It was a world-class event.
Absolutely. Hopefully we get to see it all again next year with those two. Frank, appreciate your time.
And my mate Buster done well. Buster Rhymes, he done.
Right, that's the second
And
time,
Missy,
mate.
and Missy.
Okay, Frank, thank you very much. I'll speak to you soon.
Pleasure.